Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You'll see from that presentation from Mufti Sahib that the angels have very important duties given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And certainly one would think from these duties that have been given that they are, well, one opinion would be that they are much more important than what humans do. So this gives a good introduction to the next part, in which we'll talk about whether, in essence, in general, that which community or which creation are better. Are humans better or are angels better? I mean, some of the duties they do, you can see from that, are very divine and are very beautiful in essence. The writing of the deeds, the asking the questions in the grave, enforcing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's orders, creating the form of a baby in the mother, protecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's servants. So for long there's been an academic debate about, in essence, which kind of creation are better. What I'd like to do is just give you an outline of that without going into too much detail. But it seems that from the two, I'll tell you the answer in advance really. In essence, it seems that the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are more inclined to believe that of the two, men are better than angels. Despite the fact that you have heard of all the great duties and some of the stuff that the angels do, it's still man who is superior in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we will explain some of these, some of the reasons explained by the ulama for that. Firstly, and perhaps this is the biggest proof that we offer on behalf of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, is the famous story when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the angels to bow down to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ. That all the angels, they were ordered when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam to bow down to him. And normally the sajda that we associate with this, whether it was a sajda ibadat or sajda ta'zim, normally we say that the inferior performs sajda to the superior, not the other way around. Symbolically, by bowing down to Adam alayhi salam, here Allah himself wanted the angels to acknowledge that man is a better creation than you are. So this is the most basic and most important dalil that we offer as to why the man by nature is better than angels. Related to that, and related to the same story, is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first made it clear that he wanted to create man, and he wanted to create him as a khalifa, as a vicegerent on earth. And when he said that, he commented to the angels that I am going to make a person who's going to represent me on earth. At the time, because of the experiences of the jinns prior to that, the angels, they didn't actually show disobedience, but they just reminded Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that these are the people who perhaps will cause mischief on earth. أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. That will you create man who perhaps will spill blood and cause fasad on earth? وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّهُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. And on the other hand, we are always performing your ibadah, and we are always completely immersed in your worship. And then to prove how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hikmah was better than what the angels thought, what Allah did was perform a small test for the angels and indeed for Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. And what that was basically entailed was that Adam alayhi salam, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was taught the name of all things. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. He taught him everything, that this is a pen, this is a book, and so forth. At that time, prior to asking Adam to recall all of these names, he presented these things to the angels. ثُمَّ عَرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ فَقَالَ أَنْبِئُونِي بِأَسْمَاءِ هَؤُلَاءِ. That Allah said to the angels, you tell me the names of all of these things. They could not give an answer to that. قَالُوا سُبْحَانَكَ لَا عِلْمَ لَنَا. We have no knowledge for it. Then the same kind of things that he had showed to the angels, he showed to Adam alayhi salam. أَنْبِئْهُمْ بِأَسْمَائِهِمْ. Now Adam, you tell him the name of all of these things. And Adam alayhi salam, because he had been taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, could tell him the names of all of these things. So this, it shows that by knowledge, man is far superior to angels. And at the end of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, do you not see now that I know everything on earth? Do you not see that what I am doing is for a better hikmah? That what I am creating is a better entity than the angels. And we will come to why they are better in a moment later. Secondly, the third point, sorry. So these are the 2 points. The sajda to Adam alayhi salam. Remember that the person who's performing the sajda, he is inferior to the masjood, the one who the sajda is being performed to. The story related to that of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was taught the names of all things. The third one is directly from the Holy Quran, a verse from the Holy Quran. And I mentioned part of it. إِنَّ اللَّهَ اسْتَفَى آدَمَ وَنُوحَ وَآلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَآلَ إِمْرَانَ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. In first part, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I chose Adam alayhi salam, I chose Nuh alayhi salam, the family of Ibrahim, because there were many prophets within the family of Ibrahim, and the family of Imran, again because there were many prophets in the family of Imran. I chose them over whom? Ala al-alamin, over the worlds, over the universe, meaning I have preferred them to the universe. So here Allah is saying that, in essence, what Allah is saying, that these community, the prophets and messengers, by nature, they are better than anything else on earth. And what is inclusive in al-alamin? The angels as well. They are also part of the angels. So this verse is quite explicit and quite clear in identifying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messengers are definitely better than anything or anyone else on earth, and that includes the angels. These are the main arguments that we put forward to suggest that indeed men are superior to angels. Just to give you an idea from the other side, however, why is it that some people believe that angels are superior? There are some Mu'tazila. Mu'tazila is an early group of Islam who emerged from political differences. They offer certain arguments as to why angels are considered superior. The first point they will mention is that angels are superior to men because they are free spirits. They have never performed any disobedience. That these are a creation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who have never performed evil in their life. And compare that with man who all the time is performing bad acts. So certainly, how can you begin to compare angels with men where angels are always glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continuously? And just like Mufti Sahib explained that they are always performing salatu salam upon the Prophet. So certainly by nature, it seems that the angels are better than humans because they have never performed a bad act in their life. This is the argument given by some to suggest why angels are better than men. The answer to that from our part is quite simple, that angels do not perform disobedience because they don't know what disobedience is. Like we said earlier, they are programmed, that they have no concept of evil. So it's not actually a praiseworthy characteristic in essence that they can't perform a bad act because they don't know what it is. Man, on the other hand, he knows both sides. He has that choice in front of him that he can perform good acts and bad acts. And when he does perform good acts, despite the fact that there are evil acts in front of him that he can do, then that shows greater obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine, just a quick example, imagine, you know, there's a sports car outside and you leave the keys to it in front of two boys. And you just leave them and you leave them for an hour with the keys on the table in front of them. One lad, he's brought up here in this country and he can drive a car, he has no problem. The other one, he doesn't know what a car is, or he's never driven a car. And he has no concept of what this kind of transport is. You come back an hour later, none of them have touched the keys. Now who is more deserving of your praise that they haven't touched the keys? Is it the lad who knows the car and how to drive it and how he could steal it and how he could enjoy himself? Or is it the other one who doesn't know what a car is? Now the one who knows what a car is and what it's capable of, if he refrains from it, because he says, I'm too young to drive it, or I shouldn't be driving it, or it's not mine, because he's shown that restraint, that is worthy of your praise. You can't really praise the other person because he doesn't know how to drive it in the first place. He's never seen a car before. So in exactly the same way, you can see that man is more praiseworthy because he knows that he can perform bad acts. But then he goes out and he tries to do things which please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in reality, that is showing more obedience. That is showing more sincerity, and certainly that is showing more devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A second argument is used, that angels, they teach the prophets. They come with the message and they actually teach them the revelation. Remember that the Quran that we have has come through the means of whom? It is from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but who taught him? It was Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam. So this argument is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, عَلَّمَهُ شَدِيدُ الْقُوَى ذُو مِرَّةٍ فَاسْتَوَى, that the Quran was taught to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam by the Shadidul Quwa, which is referring to Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam. He taught him it. And normally, we see here then, therefore, that the teacher is Sayyidina Jibreel and the student or the disciple is the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And normally out of the two, we associate greater prominence and fazila and superiority to whom? The teacher, not the disciple. So this is an argument used and put forward that certainly the angels are better because they are like the ustad. They are the teachers of the prophets. In answer to that, what we say, and this is what Allama Taftazani has said in Sharaqaid, which is a very important book of Aqeedah, he says that it's not really Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam teaching the Prophet. He's a Rasul, we say. He's a messenger. In reality, where is the knowledge coming from? It's coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The true teacher is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam is the messenger. And remember, keep this in mind as well, that there are places in the Quran where, although we mentioned that the Arabic for angel is malak, but there are places in the Quran where angels are described as Rasul, which you know means messenger. So their job is to pass on the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to answer to that, we say that no, it's not, technically this is not true. The angels did not teach the prophets. Rather, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The angels' duty, the likes of Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, was to pass on the message.